Parents of tweens, if you're familiar with far-off drop-offs...
Dad, stop, right here.
Or get DMs about what's for dinner, you may be experiencing tween milestones. For your son or daughter, these can start at age 9. HPV vaccination, a type of cancer prevention against certain HPV-related cancers, can start then too.
For most, HPV clears on its own. But for those who don't clear the virus, it can cause certain cancers later in life.
Embrace this phase. Help protect them in the next.
Ask their doctor today about HPV vaccination. Brought to you by Merck.
What's worse than an ad interrupting your favorite music or podcast? That uninspired coffee you've been drinking while working, which is why Flavia is elevating your everyday coffee experience. Now you can enjoy cafe-quality beverages like coffee, tea, frothy lattes, and creamy hot chocolate made right in your home office, actual office, or wherever you want to upgrade your mug with bold, delicious flavors. Visit Flavia.com to shop the collection of machines and beverages now.
The following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
There we go.
Doing the upright bass this time.
Oh, nice. Nice. All right, everyone. Welcome to the Saturday edition of No Credentials Required, where you don't need a press pass to talk sports. We are proudly presented by Belly Up Sports. My name is Ryan McCarthy. I'm one of the co-hosts. To my right is a man who has not banished blizzards from his house, but he'll be eating extras for the next couple of days. Although he might need a heart transplant after this series. Dustin Henry. Dustin, how you doing tonight?
Oh man, it's a roller coaster of emotions, and I don't know if I should put this out on the internet, but I have secured a Switch 2. It is on the way.
Hey.
So if you know where I live, if you take a package off my porch, I will be very, very angry with you. But I am doing well. I have recovered after that Thursday game, which this series might be one for the books, Ryan, but we might get into that just a little bit later in the show. I'm doing well. How are you, sir?
I'm doing pretty good. I've had a pretty good morning. I picked up my first brew kettle for making beer. So
it begins.
Step one, it begins. I got the brew kettle I found on Facebook Marketplace for $200 for the kettle. It was originally listed. I mean, I looked at the website, did the back work, and for the brew kettle itself, like it's almost $400. So I got myself $200 off for.
Wow, there you go.
And shout out to Mark if you're listening. I mentioned the podcast to him while we were exchanging goods and services. He the reason why he bought it is because he says, yeah, once you start making beer, your friends drink it all. So I had to get a bigger kettle to make more beer with. So that's the reason why he bought it. And I was like, all right, I mentioned my craft brewing certification. So I wanted to start making beer. So step one's done. I gotta get, awesome. But step two is I gotta get the fermenter, and also gotta get a distribution pump. So I can pump the wort out of the chiller, out of the tank into a fermenter and get the wort cooled down. So good. It's a good morning so far.
Yeah, get the rack pump. It'll make your life easier. Yeah. Although you probably need a bigger one. I mean, your brew kettle is probably crazy. But I'm curious, just a quick aside, I'm curious, how did they tell you to clean the kettle and everything? Because I got
the manual.
Okay. All right. Nice.
Yep. So nice. I'm probably gonna wash it with distilled water as opposed to like my tap water, because I did the back work with the tap water, and I wouldn't say it's not appropriate for cleaning, but if I had to clean with it, I would probably have to boil it first. But I think distilled water would do the trick because it's got no minerals. So no scaling, no scale buildup, any of that. Just
man, I can't wait to dive into this with you, and you've inspired me. I got to start. I'm gonna order a kit. I still have some of my home brewing supplies. I'm starting work on crab juice
with Old Bay.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to talk about baseball today. We're going to talk about the Stanley Cup Final. Joey Chestnut possibly returning to the hot dog eating contest, and in lieu of hot food takes. And we're going to do our favorite athlete to wear the number 43. But before we do all that, so I remind the people listening or watching to follow us on social media. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and on YouTube. Just search for No Credentials Required or look on your screen. And also check out other podcasts and articles at bellyupsports.com. On the podcast side, subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Spreaker, Amazon Music, iHeart, TuneIn, Pandora, and our YouTube channel after the show. And also, don't forget to hit that notification bell on Twitter and on YouTube. That way you know when shows go live. That way you know when show announcements go up. That way you just notified all around. I do want to give one note. Actually, again, this show is available on the Belly Up YouTube channel after our show is done at 2 p.m. Eastern. So the replay is available. And we already got comment in the comment section from Dan Cruz from the Time to Be Up session. And I was just about to get to that. Okay, Mr. Cruz. All right. But yes, BS Sessions Volume 50 is up now. I was a part of it last night. I was recording with Mr. Cruz. It was a great time. It was a great conversation. It's not just heavy on the sports, but we also go into my journey about podcasting, and we also talk about life in general, like how to deal with the heaviness of that is sometimes life. So I expressed to him and to the audience listening that what I do. So yes, BS Sessions Volume 50 is out now with yours truly. I told him I want every 50 episodes because I want to be on episode 350.
I'm very excited about this because right now all my brothers in podcasting are with me in some form because we have our Saturday guest as well. So, but man, I can't wait. It's the two captains of my two ships here connecting. And I'm going to be listening to that one. And Mr. Cruz, I normally don't do this, but if an invitation is there, I'd love to come on and talk some stuff with you.
Sure he'll reach. Yeah, I'm sure he'll reach out to you. Yeah. But yes, again, this is a live show. Tuesdays on 6:30 p.m. Eastern, Saturdays at 7 p.m. Saturdays at 10 a.m. Eastern. And as you may have noticed, we are a live show. We leave a comment in the comments section. You can also, on the podcast side, rate, review, leave a 5-star rating, review where you can, if you're on a podcast platform where you can review. And also, if you're on Spotify and you listen, leave us a comment. Every episode is up for commenting. And again, live show on Tuesdays and Saturdays, replay on the Belly Up Sports YouTube channel a little bit later. But as you saw, we have some comments in the comment section coming in already. And Dustin, it's Saturday. It's a day. Everybody's resting. Most people are resting this day, but it never rests. Time to chime.
I'm looking at my imaginary watch, and you are correct, sir. It is chime time.
Chime time. All right, and with that, we're gonna bring in our boy of summer. Where is that graphic? There it is. Yes. Saturdays with Kevin. It's our boy of summer. We're going to bring him in right now. He is part of the Belly Up Sports Fantasy Network. He does fantasy baseball, fantasy football. He's also with my co-host Dustin and with Mr. Cruz in the Seahawks sessions, among other projects with Belly Up Sports. We got Kevin Wilson. Kevin, how are we doing this morning?
I'm doing great, guys. It's always a pleasure to be here. And as I mentioned, I got to sleep in a little bit today. And, Dustin, you and I and Mr. Cruz, we need to get something scheduled. We need to be talking about some Seahawks, stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And if Ryan can be a guest and you could be a guest, I'm sure I could probably throw my hat in the ring to be a guest. So Mr. Cruz, hit me up as well. And so I'm happy to be here. I'm excited to be here as always. And
he's on top of it. He says, "I'm aware, sir."
Still one of my favorite episode of Seahawks Session so far is where you, Dan, and I talked cars for like 40 minutes.
That's right. Yeah, we get off the beaten trail over there just a little bit, but we bring it back in, and because many camps are going. and and the folk ants are what, about a month away or so.
About 4 weeks away. From
training. So football is right there. So we got some things to discuss, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, football is omnipresent, but we have you here to discuss baseball.
That's right.
But before we jump into baseball, Ryan, you had mentioned you wanted to maybe we open the show with a little acknowledgement of the passing of a legend.
Yes, the passing of a legend this week. Actually, two legends this week within about a couple days of each other. Brian Wilson, the Beach Boys, one of the great musicians of the 1960s, formed the Beach Boys, was a big part of it. He passed away on Thursday. I want to say, was it Thursday? No, Wednesday. Wednesday. It was Wednesday. Yeah. And then Sly Stone of the Sly Stone also passed away on Monday, I believe. So a couple of music legends passing away. And my parents grew up in that era with the Beach Boys and the Sly Stone and listening to that music. And I grew up, I'm pretty sure you did too. And Dustin and Kevin growing up listening to the Beach Boys and a lot of the music from the 60s and the 70s and also into the 50s too. So Dustin, I want to get your thoughts. I know you're the music guy. You've got the degree, literally and figuratively speaking, in music. I want to have you speak about these two legends of the music world.
Oh man, I mean, Sly and the Family Stone. I candidly, I didn't get into that music until I was older. My mom, she brought me up. Her musical tastes were pretty diverse, but she had the Shaft soundtrack back in the day. That's what I remember. And I'm still a little miffed because she wouldn't let me do an idea that I wanted to do with our answering machine message, but she wouldn't let me do that.
Can we get it on this show?
Oh yeah, I was gonna have the Shaft soundtrack playing in the background. And I was going to say, if you think you've reached the Henry household, you damn right. Leave a message after the beep. Yeah, I wanted to. Oh, thank you for letting me live my dream. But candidly, I wasn't in as much to Sly and the Family Stone until I got older and started to broaden my musical horizons a little bit when I was in college and started kind of pushing out of my comfort zone. The Beach Boys, Brian Wilson, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I'm the biggest fan of the Beach Boys as well, but I recognize Brian Wilson's genius. Brian Wilson is a genius. You do not throw around that term lightly, but if you listen to the Beatles have been very upfront. The reason that they did Sgt. Pepper's is because they wanted to compete with Pet Sounds. They heard Pet Sounds and they said, we got to try something like that. Pet Sounds, whether you love the Beach Boys or not, is one of the greatest albums produced, and Brian Wilson heard all that stuff in his head. You can hear him on some of the unreleased outtakes from Pet Sounds and things that have been released, directing the bands exactly what to do, directing the musicians exactly what to do. He heard all the parts at once like a composer. And those harmonies that he has composed have influenced countless bands, countless people. And I'll just finish it out. God Only Knows, one of the best songs ever, period. And special shout out to Sloop John B. I always like Sloop John B. But I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I'm the biggest Beach Boys fan. But if you don't respect the musical greatness of both Sly and the Family Stone and just how influential they were as well, and I mean, so many great musicians in the family. And if you don't respect the musical genius of Brian Wilson, I don't know what to tell you. The world lost two musical luminaries this week, and it's a sign that we're all getting older. And it's tough. It's tough. Brian Wilson just felt like one of those timeless people. He'd be around forever, and he was an eccentric genius, but a genius nonetheless. Rest in peace, Brian Wilson.
Absolutely. Kevin, how about you? Let's talk about Kevin. Let's talk about Kevin Wilson, Brian Wilson. And you know what? Actually, what song came to mind this week was a song Brian Wilson by the by the Bare Naked Ladies.
Yeah.
Lying in bed, just like Brian Wilson did.
That was a pretty good rendition. That was a pretty good one.
That's my good impression of Steven from
yes.
From Bare Naked Ladies.
Yeah, now that's the only Bare Naked Ladies song I like, man.
Really?
Yeah.
Not a fan, huh?
I'm not a fan, but that's a good one.
Well, it's been 1 week since you listened to it.
That's the reason I don't like it.
Yeah, I got played out too much, but I like a lot of other stuff. Anyway, Kevin, let's talk about Brian Wilson and Sly
Let's talk about Brian Wilson. I've always been a fan of his, and just coincidentally, my brother's name happens to be Brian Wilson. And so, if that was the case, and he used to pretend like, hey, I'm Brian Wilson. And so when I heard about this, that I immediately sent him a text saying, oh, no, is this you, Brian Wilson? And unfortunately, it was not.
Oh, no, you're dead.
And so, Dustin, I'm like you, because no less than Paul McCartney said that Brian Wilson is a genius. He said that. And you were right that that a lot of, because the Beach Boys were America's response. Well, not going to say response, but they were the competitors of the Beatles. And they recognized this. And it's interesting because when they call themselves the Beach Boys and they did all the surfer stuff and all that. And then they went in a totally different direction and they came out with Good Vibrations and like you said, Pet Sounds and a lot of the other guys that were like, Brian, what are you doing with us here? Because he wanted to direct each and every single way that was going. Like you said, he had it in his head. And they produced an album that at the time wasn't really, except for the Beatles, a lot of people were like, what is going on here? And then they listened to it, and it stands alone in the 60s as one of the great turning points of music. So this guy influenced a lot that came in the 70s after that. So Brian Wilson was a genius. We have seen the Beach Boys years ago. We got to go and saw them. And so I could say that I saw him in real life. So he was a big musical influence on me. And it was a sad day when he passed.
So can your brother play any music? Because he can tour as Brian Wilson now.
Oh, man.
Well, I think that he had music in his head too, but it was not produced at the level.
It was music you had to. It was music you had to have him committed for. I get it.
Yes, and that was another interesting aspect of it, that because Brian Wilson, got screwed over for many years, and it finally was revealed that the manager was had him, so he thought he was crazy and kept him isolated.
Yeah,
and it finally came out what happened with that. So there was a movie that came out a few years back that chronicled all that, and we watched that movie as well. It's a downer of a movie, kind of, because you're seeing what happened to him, and a man that had that level of genius was treated in that manner was truly shameful. But he was able to get out of that scenario, so that was the good part about it. And I couldn't have any more respect for Brian Wilson than I do have.
And it's not just because of the last name. It's
No. It would certainly have been helpful if there was some kind of relation going on right there. But,
but you've also disavowed Zachary Wilson and Zach Wilson.
Yeah, no. We don't claim that. All right, we do not.
I gotta share this story about Brian Wilson. So Brian Wilson shared a story about how Don Henley of the Eagles once came backstage after a concert, and Henley came back, had arrived, had a copy of Pet Sounds, and told Wilson how much he loved his music and how he inspired him. Brian Wilson inspired Don Henley when he was younger, and he wanted Brian Wilson to autograph the album. So Wilson picked up a Sharpie and wrote, "To Don, thanks for all the great songs, meaning the Eagles songs. And then Henley turned to leave, but Wilson called him back and grabbing the record, crossed out great, and replaced it with good. And Henley was like, all right.
yeah, I'll take that. Yeah.
But yeah, and the Beach Boys music and also Sly and the Family Stone.
Yeah.
Again, like I mentioned, like instrumental, no pun intended, growing up in my teenage and my teenage years, like their music was just, it was incredible just to hear. I mean, all those great songs, Good Vibrations, Wouldn't It Be Nice? Sloop John B, which is one of the first goofier songs like in that era. It's like it's all about a guy who gets taken over by a pirate ship, and one guy eats all his corn. You know, one of the pirates eats all his corn. But they also had when they covered Christmas, their own Christmas music. Let's see, the Christmas songs. They covered a bunch of the Christmas songs. They also made their own Christmas songs, too. One of them comes to mind. I'm trying to think of what it is. It's in my Christmas album list.
I can hear it in my head, but I can't think of the name right now. But maybe we could do some real-time research.
That's what I'm doing right now.
My professor, one of my college professors, he used to say, and I think he's right.
Little Saint Nick.
Yes, Little Saint Nick. There we go.
The man with all the toys.
He said that whenever a band was struggling in popularity, the label always goes to them and say, hey, make a Christmas album. Because you know what Christmas albums do? They sell.
Yep.
And so the Beach Boys were no exception. When they hit a slow point in their career, went to a Christmas album and it sold.
Yeah. And again, you also got to talk about Sly and the Family Stone, some of his great songs. Everyday People,
yes,
Dance to the Music.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Oh yeah.
Family Affair.
Oh yeah.
Incredible music. So both these musicians gone, but we always had that. We always have their music to carry on.
We do.
Yes.
And just so if you're on Sirius XM over the weekend, they're playing a Beach Boys channel that has exclusive Beach Boys talk and song. So if you're on Sirius XM, check that out, because we were listening to that on the radio. We were driving yesterday, and it was awesome.
Yeah, and Mr. Cruz saying Mariah Carey's a perfect example of this, and he says, I felt like I spelled that wrong. You did. Carey. It's Carey, but that's okay. Well, you know what you meant.
Yeah, but you got the first name right. That's the most important. You get the first name
right. So bravo you, sir. You get a B+ for trying.
You could have called her Mimi. And just
that curvy witch who every year declares on November 1st, it's Christmas season. It's like, no, it's not, Mariah. But
no, but don't short shrift my favorite holiday, Mariah. All right.
And here's my number. So we're gonna talk about these. Oh, hooray! I'm useful. Yay!
You always are, man.
You are. All right, we're gonna transition over to Major League Baseball because it is Saturday, and we have Kevin here. He's our Major League Baseball guy. He would, like I said a couple weeks ago, he would crawl through glass to go to a baseball game. But we're gonna talk about a couple topics that have been kind of pressing on both mine and Dustin's mind. Let's talk about Tommy John surgery, because we had two pitchers go down this week. Corbin Burns.
That's right.
Jackson Jobe, Corbin Burns of the Arizona Diamondbacks, Jackson Jobe of the Detroit Tigers, both having Tommy John surgery. We know that Garrett Cole has had Tommy John surgery and he's on the way to recovery, so he won't pitch until probably midway through. I'd say and he probably gets his first throws sometime in October, and he won't be back until probably, I'd say, May of next year. But we're going to talk about this. I wouldn't say it's an epidemic or a pandemic, but it's a concern. It's a concern that we're seeing a lot of Major League Baseball pitchers electing to have Tommy John. And we talked about Steven Strasburg is one of those guys who famously had Tommy John surgery. Shohei Ohtani has had two Tommy John surgeries, which is why we don't see him pitch anymore. Although he can rake like there's no tomorrow.
Well, though, they're saying that he's going to be taking the mound in July now.
I'm sure about that. We'll see it when it comes.
Yeah, we'll see when it happens.
Well, he's more effective behind the plate anyway, back to the main topic at hand, Tommy John surgery. How concerned are you, Kevin, with all these pitchers electing to have Tommy John surgery? And is there a way we could see that what needs to be changed? I would say from like little league going up to when you make the major leagues, what needs to change in terms of pitching for these young pitchers?
Well, there is a concern because the two guys that you mentioned are at the very opposite ends. You have Corbin Burns, who is a veteran.
Yep.
He's a Cy Young Award winner. Then you've got Jackson Jobe over here, who's just starting his career. And they both wound up in the same place, Tommy John. And so it affects pitchers of all kinds. And I think a lot of this is, and it's because you have it where pitchers' arms are protected like never before.
Right.
And it doesn't seem to be doing a whole lot of good because you got a guy who's pitched 5 or 6 innings and throws 90 pitches. They're coming out of the game regardless of what the game situation is. And so they're protecting their arms, but I think a lot of this is because of the torque they put on their elbow. That pitching is not a natural human motion.
No.
And pitchers from yesteryear, I don't think put the kind of torque that these guys today, because they go out there in the first inning and try and throw 102 miles an hour right out of the gate, and then they'll try to throw a 88 mile an hour breaking ball, and they're putting pressure on their elbows right in the first inning. Whereas back in the day, they kind of paced themselves a little bit because they knew they were going to have to go 7 every single game. So they didn't throw themselves into every single pitch like they do today.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if there's a whole lot you can do to change that. You could do it if I'm a young, let's say I have a son and he's a young guy, there's no way he's throwing anything other than fastballs until he gets into his later teens. They're throwing curveballs when they're 13 years old, and they don't need to be doing that. Mm-hmm. It throws their elbows aren't ready for that to begin with. So young pitchers don't need to be throwing breaking pitches and sliders and everything else until they're a little bit older, then go ahead and do it. So there's just so much that's in this particular area. And a lot of people that are a lot more knowledgeable than I am have been trying to look into this. I don't know if there's a whole lot they can do unless they change how they don't throw 102 miles an hour in the first inning. But I don't think they're ever going to do that. So injuries are here to stay. That's just the final analysis of that to me.
Yeah. Dustin, what's your thoughts on this?
Well, for me, it's just baffling because I start thinking, and you already kind of touched on it, Kevin, but the pitchers of yesteryear, I think the era of seeing somebody like a Tommy Glavine or a Glavine, Greg Maddux, CC Sabathia, some of the Nolan Ryan was he would pitch until his arm fell off. And I mean,
which he literally did. Remember the last pitch he threw blew out his arm. That's the only time that ever happened in his major league career.
And I mean, he was doing more complete games than anybody. So I am with you, Kevin, that something has changed in the way that pitchers are starting. I think they're starting younger. And then you got the things, but it's just become all too commonplace for me. The reason I wanted to bring this up is you have pitchers like Dustin May. He came out, looked like $1 million a few years ago for the Dodgers. He left to had Tommy John. He's come back. It's not the same. The rehabilitation period, and it seems every year there's a highly touted pitcher coming out or an ace. This year it was Garrett Cole. Had to have Tommy John before the season even started, and he's broken up about it. And now you got the rehabilitation process. I think people are just putting too much pressure on their arms. And what baffles me too is it's obvious it's happening all over. Anytime you hear the term elbow discomfort now, or ulnar collateral ligament, you start to think, okay, this pitcher is going to have Tommy John. Here's another one. And more names are escaping me, but I believe Walker Buehler was another case where he came out.
He is.
He looked amazing, and
he was amazing.
Yeah, and he's trying to come back from Tommy John, and still. And Ryan, I can't believe the name is escaping me, but maybe you can help me here because you're Encyclopedia Ryan-Tanica. Who was the Yankee pitcher that decided not to have Tommy John, and he pitched through it? And he was from Japan. And he signed with the Yankees.
Oh
man,
it's on the tip of my tongue too.
I know. I can't think of it. But he pitched through it. He never had the procedure, but he was never
Tanaka.
Yes.
Hiro
Tanaka.
Tanaka.
Masahiro Tanaka. Yes.
I saw him pitch too while he was going through that struggle, and he actually pitched pretty well.
He did, but he was never the same as quite the same as before. He was dominant before that happened. But
he should have won Cy Young in 2020. He had a good season.
I would agree with you there, but I don't know why. What was the difference? And a medical expert would have to tell me, but how come it's not an option for more pitchers to go the route that he did and try to pitch through it? Maybe the tear was not as severe. I don't know. I can't remember. But I remember he elected not to have Tommy John, and he pitched through it. But something is going on. And like Kevin said, people smarter than me can't figure this out. So far be it from me, but I just noticed every year it's commonplace now. You get at least, it seems like 3 pitchers, and a lot of them are stars too.
I found the reason.
Okay.
So this is according to, I Googled it, and this is what Gemini AI came up with. And it says Masahiro Tanaka did not have Tommy John surgery because after an initial diagnosis of a partial UCL tear in 2020, doctors recommended a course of rest and rehabilitation with platelet-rich plasma
PRP injections.
PRP injections instead of immediate surgery. This approach allowed him to return to pitching later that season and continue his career without undergoing the procedure at the time. And here's the thing with Tanaka too. Like even before he was in Major League Baseball, when he was in the NPB in Japan, like that dude pitched his arm off.
Yeah,
He was a hero for the Rakuten Eagles when they won their Japan series back in the day. I think he went back to them. He went back to them after he left the Yankees in 2020. So, but we got some comments in the comments section. Going to get to them real quickly before we go to our next topic. Snowman checking in saying sports ball. Mr. Cruz saying Hall of Famer Randy Johnson would like a word/bird because the bird is the word.
Yeah, but also I know what you did there. I know what you did
there,
Mr. Cruz.
Brother Desire checking in saying hi everyone. He also says this is a great topic. I'm an old guy and I have to say the injuries are far worse over the last 10 years or so. It wasn't nearly as common about 20 years ago. Yeah. And he also says Tanaka was incredible. Yeah, he was a great pitcher. I wish I could bring my nephew for this. I know he's probably working right now, or he's sleeping because of his time with the fire station because he's a fireman. So I wish I could get him to talk about this a little bit more. I think part of the problem is that your kids are throwing the fastballs. I would say not fastballs, but they're throwing.
Yeah, fastballs are fine. It's when you're trying to goof around with breaking pitches.
Right,
that's the problem.
No, that's right. So I remember my brother telling him when he was younger, when he was in Little League, don't twist your arm a certain way or don't torque the ball like this. Like it's just throw fastballs, have a little bit of control. And like Dustin said, like you're not seeing pitchers like the Braves rotation from back in the day. I mean, even John Smoltz had to have Tommy John.
Yeah, he did. He did.
Actually, if you go, there's a look in Wikipedia, there's a list, and this list is a mile long of pitchers who have had Tommy John surgery. And some of them have had it twice. I think Strasburg had it twice, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
he had it once. He only had it once.
Only one time. Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
No,
he had a lot of other issues other than that too. So
but he can say I have a World Series ring. So
yeah.
None of us
he was great when healthy. Like Strasburg is a what could have been for me.
Absolutely,
because he was already great. But if he didn't have all those injuries, man.
Well, not only the injuries, but if it wasn't all those Washington national teams that were just either terrible or got hamstrung by other better teams like the Phillies and the Dodgers back in the day.
Yeah.
But the
unfortunately for them, Anthony Rendon didn't go down the drain until he left Washington.
Man.
Man.
Poor Anthony Rendon. Thank goodness. All right, our other topic for we're talking MLB is the All-Star balloting. All-Star balloting opened this week for fans to vote. I'm pretty sure who the top vote getters are going to be in both leagues. Their names rhyme with Judge and Ohtani. But I have to ask, it's traditionally we have every team represented, regardless of how their record, what their records are, where they stand in Major League Baseball. Currently, we have we have several teams who have terrible records. The Rockies, the Marlins, the White Sox. They've had pretty bad seasons. The Athletics, who have had pretty bad seasons over the last couple of seasons. You could argue Pittsburgh, but Pittsburgh has Paul Skeens, one of the best young pitchers in baseball. So you gotta have him pitch, of course. He pitched last year in the All-Star.
He was the opening starter for the National League last year.
Yeah.
So I want to ask, and is with these terrible teams here, is it time for Major League Baseball to say, okay, yes, you have some great players on your team who are worthy of having an all-star vote, but we need our best and brightest from the teams that are basically going to be in the discussion for a playoff berth or wild card or division berth this year. Is it time to move on from every team needs to be represented?
Well, I can answer yes. It is time. Simply stated, it is time, and it's not because they're bad, but they don't have anybody on their teams that measures up to being an all-star.
Mm-hmm.
Because let's say like a team like the Angels, and if Mike Trout was ever healthy, the Angels have been awful, but Mike Trout is one of the greatest players that have ever stepped on the field. So if he was ever healthy, then yes, he would certainly deserve to be there. But you got a guy on your team, the highest batting average on your team is 242. Okay. Or the lowest ERA you have on your team is 4.55. You don't need any of those guys on the all-star team, especially now, because before every team used to have they wear their own jersey at the all-star game. Now they're having to wear stuff. It looks like they're getting ready to have some kind of a sleepover or something. These uniforms that they're wearing at the All-Star games are simply awful. That's a different topic altogether.
What's wrong with sleepovers?
Well, you're supposed to grow out of that sort of thing. And but so they're not even wearing their own uniforms there. The only caveat that I would say is that whatever the city is hosting the All-Star game, they should have a representative there because it's there at their stadium. But beyond that, you don't need a guy who's hitting 233 with 3 homers and 15 RBIs in the All-Star game. It's supposed to be, the fans vote in who they want. The rest of the team should be the best players that are, playing, period, to me. And forget about Miami. You stay way down there in Florida because we don't need you, okay? Because you don't have anybody worthy to be on the All-Star game. So there you go.
I heard Mrs. Wilson in the background. What did she say?
Yeah, she tells me that sometimes I need to be less expressive than I am.
Oh, man.
Dustin, what's your thoughts on this?
Oh, man, I struggle with this one so much, right? Because I think it's a good having a team with a representative from every team is a good way to get somebody that might be snubbed from the quote unquote least popular, less popular markets, teams, et cetera, because Kevin's right. The fans vote in who they want. Mm-hmm. But the other thing is, if there's not, I am not for scrounging to find somebody if there's nobody on the team of note that's playing well. I have less of a problem with it, though, because baseball is a team sport, right? We get this, but the All-Star game is basically, it's about celebrating individual accomplishment. So if there is like the one year, those years where the Seattle Mariners were bad, but Felix Hernandez was always there because he was the man. He's one of my favorite players. I had no problem with King Felix being there because he was an amazing pitcher and he always deserved to be there. But at the same time, if he wasn't having a season that was up to par, and then he gets voted in with the fan vote anyway, having the requirement to have a representative from each team is kind of like a safety net to get somebody who deserves an invite. So I really struggle with this one, but I'm leaning towards no. And the tough thing, you want to empathize with some of the Rockies pitchers who have been good in the past. Their ERA is going to be inflated because of where they played, not necessarily because of how they pitch. But I'm kind of with Kevin on this one. I don't think every team needs to have a representative. But since you are the man that brought the topic to the table, I want to hear your thoughts on this one.
Look, sometimes you don't mess with traditions. I can't say the other word. I can't quote Letterkenny because I don't want to get a talking to by Kelsey or by Jared. But but sometimes now that we've had all these teams that have had bad seasons the last 3 seasons, the Athletics, the White Sox, now the Rockies having just terrible seasons. Yeah, we have to break with tradition because it's not the players' fault necessarily per se that they're stuck on these bad teams. But you have to have your brightest and your best stars, your best players representing your league when it comes to the All-Star game. And I think All-Star games in general are a little bit passé, in my opinion. The NBA All-Star game was a joke last year. Both teams scored almost 200 points, and there was no defense to be played.
In hockey, you scored 21 goals. Now stop it.
That was the last time we had an All-Star game featuring a West and an East, a Western conference and an Eastern conference. And the final score was like 12 to 10. So, and that's why they changed the format in the NHL. That's why they pivoted, which was, I say, good for them for doing so. And now they have the four nations. Now they have the 4 nations face off, which I say play every 4 years instead of every year.
You better keep that.
I say you keep it, but have it every 4 years and rotate other teams in, rotate other nations in. Like I think the Czech Republic, I think Czechia should be represented. I think Russia should be represented, regardless of what you think about the politics of the players or the nation.
Leave that at the door.
Yeah, that you can disregard that. The Pro Bowl has pivoted.
Pro Bowl just needs to be buried.
Hold on, Kevin. I have a point to this.
Okay.
When they got rid of the ASC versus NFC format and they decided to put in the player games and then the flag football, at first I was like, flag football, really? But because of the Olympics, I saw what the NFL was doing. I was like, okay, I get it now. But yeah, the Pro Bowl is also kind of passé too. I think All-Star games in general are passé, unless you do it right. The NHL is the only one who has done it right because they've pivoted. They've changed the format to 3-on-3, 10-minute games, and a little mini tournament to determine who wins that All-Star game with the divisions, and then the winners get to split $1 million. So, which is pretty cool. So, and the fans get treated to the skills competition the night before, and it's just a big skills show off for the league in general. So, I applaud the NHL in that regard. But the Major League Baseball, National League versus American League, and again, you had that tie back in 2002, and Bud Selig says, well, the winner of the All-Star game, they get home field in the World Series, which I thought was just dumb. It was just lame. They stopped that. I'm happy they stopped that.
Yeah. It was an attempt to add stakes for that idea alone.
Sorry, what did you say, Dustin?
I was just saying it was an attempt to add stakes. I see what they were trying to do there, but yeah.
Okay. Because when it comes to the All-Star games, baseball is the only one that's played as it is every day. They're coming out and they're throwing 98-mile-an-hour fastballs at the All-Star game. It's the exact same game. That's always been its appeal. So you don't need to mess with that at all. Just, it's a celebration of the game. And so baseball's All-Star game is far better than any other sports. And so they don't need to mess with it. They just need, I think, like I said, to go back to, if you're a Dodger, wear a Dodger uniform. If you're an Astro, wear an Astro uniform. And forget these awful, because they're just awful.
They only wear them during home run derby, though. That's the only time you see them. That's the only time you really see them, because you'll see them in uniform with the regular uniform on during the actual All-Star game. But we gotta move along. We got a couple of comments in the comment section before we go to commercial break. Brother Josiah is saying, I wonder if it can be linked to how much younger folks text. Yep. We know that overuse damages carpal tunnels and even the arm. I wonder if there may be a tie-in. That may be the dumbest question I've asked. No, this is actually a great point. This is actually a really good point. I have to wonder, because you're using your thumbs to text, and your thumbs are pretty much connected to this ligament right here, your UCL. So, of course, I'm not a doctor, so I can't really say. But that's actually a good question, Brother Joe. It's not a dumb question. You've actually made a good point. I wonder the same thing too. Dan says Paul Skeen's the Henrik Lundqvist of baseball.
And Ryan, don't shortchange yourself. I know that you got a medical degree from Hollywood Upstairs Medical College. Okay,
Dr. Nick was my medical director. Yeah. Hi, everybody. Hi, Dr. Nick. Hey, just an aside here. I did get invited to Henrik's house one time, and he offered me coffee, but he had no cups.
Oh no! Jeez, you went a mile for that one, and I respect it.
Boom! And James, to wrap it up before we go to commercial, saying, I'm fine with having players from every team. I remember scanning all-star rosters to see who would represent the Expos and the Devil Rays back in the day. Yeah, that's when the Devil Rays were terrible, and now the Rays. But we touched on that last week about if Major League Baseball is dead in Florida.
Go back and listen to that episode right there. We got into that.
Dan, it's an all-time joke. You shush. And it's true. It's funny because it's true. He has no cups. All right, we're gonna take our commercial break. When we come back, we're gonna talk hockey. We're gonna talk about Joey Chestnut, and we're going to reveal our favorite athletes to wear the number 43. So stand by, stay tuned for more No Credentials Required. This episode of No Credentials Required is brought to you by Invader Coffee. For the coffee lover who wants good, quality coffee with no bullshit and no filler, Invader Coffee is an ultra-premium, veteran-owned coffee company proudly delivering only the best coffee your hard-earned money can buy. They aim to only serve the highest quality, organic, air-roasted coffee beans sourced from free trade farms all over the world. They keep things simple. The best coffee at an affordable price in order to provide you with the value you deserve for your morning boost. 100% fair trade, 100% organic coffee beans, 100% air roasted, 100% money back guarantee. Visit invadercoffee.com, enter promo code BELLYUP at checkout, and receive 15% off your order. A couple of things before we go into this, Invader Coffee. First of all, happy 250th birthday to the U.S. Army. Also, today is Flag Day, established in 1777. We fly old glory high in that regard. So tag along, shush. I don't know if you can hear him whining outside my door.
I did not
okay.
hear.
I thought it would carry through the camera, carry through the microphone. Anyway, Invader Coffee. Speaking of veterans, this is a veteran-owned business you want to buy your coffee from. And again, as the handsome bearded man that commercial said, 100% air roasted, so all that nonsense with the acidity is taking out. It's a smooth cup of coffee, and with every cup of coffee you get, they've got a wide variety of flavors. They've got a wide variety you get yourself a nice cup of coffee every time. Nice 12-ounce bags comes to your door fast with shipping. And not only do you save with 15% with promo code BELLYUP at checkout, you can also help our show by ordering through the affiliate link in the description on the podcast side, on Facebook, and on YouTube, both here and on the replay and Belly Up Sports. And also, if there's also an option on Invader Coffee's website where you can buy a bag of coffee for a veteran overseas or a veteran currently serving. This is through through the organization. I'm trying to remember who it's called. I've got the bookmark right here. Hang on one second. You can buy a bag of coffee for an active service member, which is great. I've done that before myself. It's through the Move America Forward Foundation, which was established in 2004. It's a veteran assistance charity. So they get the coffee and they distribute it to veterans. So veterans to active service members. But yes, wide variety of flavors. What do you want? Light, medium, or dark roast? Get their cold brew, which they sell in individual cans. They also sell in a case, a 12. So you get yourself a nice little supply of your coffee there. So I've said too much about this coffee brand, Dustin. I know you've ordered from them before. Talk about them a little bit.
Oh, of course I've ordered from them. I'm drinking them right now. I'm drinking the pumpkin pecan. So I get it's a little out of season, but it's one of my. You were nice enough to buy me a bag because you're a man of your word, and we. I enjoy it. There are favorite flavors that I've got. Of course, Donut Dealer. I wish you were back in stock. I love you. But they're always good about letting you know when things are back in stock. It sells out because they've got some flavors that are really good. And the flavored coffee, it's not overpowering. You don't need to add cream, sugar, all that stuff that you add to some of the Carducks or Bleen Mountain coffees. But I'm just always impressed by their level of service, how fast it gets to you. Use the promo code BELLYUP. You get 15% off your order. Use the affiliate link. It helps the show. And I must say, special shout out to the brand that started it all, the OG blend, the Invader blend. I hadn't had a bag of that in a while, and I said, you know what? It's been a while since I've ordered this. I'm going to order this. And it's kind of like picking up that old guitar that I haven't played in a while. You kind of fall back in love with it. Give the OG blend a try. It's perfect the way it is. You don't need to add anything to it. Really enjoying it, and love when I have it in my cups during the mornings, which is usually the weekends because I like to sleep until the last possible minute during the week before I have to get up to go to work.
And as we're speaking about praising the name of Invader Coffee, I'm actually ordering a bag of the Black Heart blend so I can make myself some cold brew, and I've included a bag of coffee for a deployed military member. So
there you go.
Pay for right now. I'm putting my money where my mouth is because I know veterans in my.
I can highly support that because I was overseas, and I can tell you what kind of joy that brings if you get something and they're like, wow, I got something. Somebody remembered me. It makes a huge difference.
Yeah, because you don't want to go on the battlefield after you're sucking a cup of coffee.
No, you don't want that.
So again, order through the affiliate link in the description. You can use promo code BELLYUP at checkout, get 15% off your order. And as always, Invader Coffee, you get the no credentials required seal of approval. Good old Puppers. He loves that coffee.
Only thing that would make that better is if it actually had the seal noise going on.
I did that once. I'm never doing it again.
Oh, it didn't work? Okay.
It's one of my favorite moments in the history of the show.
And it wasn't even for Invader Coffee, too. It was for a past sponsor.
But you're going to you dig back in the archives if you want to find that one, because Ryan did a Hall of Fame performance and then simultaneously retired it the very same episode. So
and some cute girl got me to make a seal sound because she said that she didn't claim what a seal sounded like, so I did the noise. And like, I know what a seal.
Into it.
I walked right into it like a dummy. But this is not dummy. This is not a dummy. This is a great. This might be look.
Oh man!
I said it. What, 2 weeks ago? What, maybe was it 2 weeks ago Tuesday, or maybe like
somewhere in there? Yeah,
about 10 days ago on our Tuesday show, talking about the Stanley Cup Final because we had gone through the first two games of the Stanley Cup Final and they both went to overtime. Yeah, and I said, no hyperbole, this might be one of the greatest Stanley Cup series ever. With the exception of Game 3, which we talked about on Tuesday, and I could tell on Wednesday during was it Thursday's game? Yeah, when I didn't text Dustin at all. I don't want to text Dustin, especially if it's one of his teams is in it. And I was going to be like, after this first period, because I saw the first period score, I'm going, oh no, here we go again.
Yeah.
But then Edmonton comes back. They tied up in the second period, knotted up at 3 in the second period. Third period comes around. Oilers scored with 6:40 something left in the game, 6:40 left in the game. And Panthers tie it with 19 and a half seconds left. The second
time that's happened.
The second time that's happened in this series with less than 20 seconds left, the game-tying goal scored, which is incredible.
Yes.
And then Leon Draisaitl, Neon Leon, who I said was going to be the Conn Smythe Trophy winner at the end of this series. And he's proven me right because this is his fourth game-winning overtime winner, which is the record for this for any Stanley Cup final. Guys, and I'm going to actually hand it to Dustin first because he's a fan of one of the teams in the Stanley Cup final. I know you probably need a heart transplant after this series is over, provided that the Edmonton Oilers actually do win the Stanley Cup, because now it's a best of 3. We're tied up at 2. Now it's a best of 3. I want to get your feelings about this series so far.
I said on our hockey's preview super show, the Stanley Cup preview super show, that I thought this series would go 7 games. I think you had Oilers in 6. I hope you're right, Ryan, because I can't take much more of this. Like you said, game 3 was the stinker for the Oilers. But other than that, these two teams, if you look, and I keep doing this and I keep harping on it, but if you look at the shots on goal, and you just look at the way these two teams play, they're pretty evenly matched. I still give the Panthers the edge in goaltending, of course, because you called it, Ryan. You said that Skinner's good, but he has these blow-up games. Well, he certainly had a blow-up game, and Calvin Pickard had to come in. He's 7-0 in postseason play when he's relieved Stuart Skinner. So there is something to this, and I know Brent, if he's listening or watching, he said if Calvin Pickard's your savior, you're in trouble. I agree with you, sir, but Calvin Pickard came through again, and he kind of stemmed the tide, steadied the ship for the Oilers, allowed that comeback to happen. But Leon Draisaitl, we're so glad. I'm so glad that he. I think he's exercising the demons from last year's playoff run. And like you said, both these teams, both of them, because the Oilers have more physicality this year, but the Panthers still have the edge in that category because you have Brad Marchand, you have the Tkachuk brothers. And also, did you see before the game, Ryan, Stuart Skinner's got that little pregame warm-up ritual he likes to do. The goalie came out, and the Florida Panthers goalie came out, and he was kind of mocking. It was the backup. I don't think it was Bobrovsky. He came out, and he's kind of mocking Skinner, doing the ritual to Skinner in front of his face. And Calvin Pickard went over and kind of said, hey, he chirped at the guy a little bit. This series, these two teams, it's physical. There's mind games. There's gamesmanship going on. But both of these teams have the talent to back it up, that kind of stuff, and they can score at any time. So it seems like no lead is safe because, as you mentioned, but I am so proud of the way the Oilers, most teams would have wilted down 3-0 like that with the start they had. They did not. And Corey Perry's been very vocal about saying the Oilers have a different feel this year. Even when it gets a little hairy on the ice, there's a calmness on the bench because we feel that we can do this. We can overcome these things. And so far, the series has been everything that any hockey fan has wanted. I don't care if you're not a fan of the two teams that are in it. It's a little more high stakes for me because I am a fan of one of the teams. I am pleading that the Oilers win the cup because I feel like this is their shot. If they don't do it here, there's going to be some significant changes to the squad. But, man, if you're a hockey fan, this series is amazing. I think it goes 7. I hope the Oilers pull it out. But no lead is safe. And, both teams have scored. I think Corey Perry's goal was with 7 seconds left to tie it.
17 and change, yeah.
The Panthers' goal was with 19 and a half seconds left. Yep. This is insane.
It's cinema.
Yeah.
Pure cinema. Absolute cinema.
Yeah.
Kevin, what you think?
Well, from a personal standpoint, when it was 3-0, I was looking forward to this coming on the show because, as I was mentioning, this is a cat house, for lack of a better term. So we're in the Florida Panthers, side of things. So I thought, okay, it's 3-0. They got blowed out of game 3. So I can come on here and talk smack to Dustin. Well, not so much. But as a if you're a hockey guy, this 3 games overtime out of 4, what more could you possibly ask for? You got goals coming from every direction. You've got goals in the last seconds of games. So this is the kind of thing that could win guys over to hockey that perhaps are not necessarily into it because you just don't know what's going to happen. And it's, as you mentioned, it's 2 out of 3 now. And Edmonton has 2 of their games at home. So the advantage just switches to them just slightly. I think that 7 games is what we're looking at here. And as a hockey person, this is about as best as you could ask for. And like I said, I would like the Panthers just because they're cats. But beyond that, this is all you could ask for in a hockey series.
I said I was on Total Football Talk yesterday with our friend Drew, our mutual friend Drew Willingham. And at the end of the show, he says you get a minute or two to do a final thought. And I said I'm going to deviate away from football and talk about the Stanley Cup Final. I said even if you're a casual fan, you have to love what this series is all about because it's just been an incredible with the exception of game 3, which was a complete wash, and Oilers got their luck discipline caught up to them, especially in the third period, which I read all those penalties on Tuesday's program because it was the night after game 3. And I said, the Oilers got 2 extra days to get right. The game 4 is going to be a get right game for them. And they came out the gate and they struggled and they had to swap goaltenders. Skinner got pulled. Pickard did everything right in this game. I would say that goal that tied the game at 4 with 19 and a half seconds left.
Yeah,
it wasn't entirely his fault because he got taken out of position by his own guy, which left the net open for the goal to be tied by Stillman. So, but Leon Draisaitl, a little bit of puck luck, got the bounce, and we're now tied at we're now off the skate of Ekblom, and now we're tied up at 2 going into tonight. And I'm excited to see what the next 3 games.
That's right.
If we get to 3 games, because now it's best of 3. I'm excited to see what happens the rest of the way. I'm kind of pulling. I'm torn. I don't want to say I'm torn on who to root for because I'll be okay with both teams winning. Sorry, Dustin.
No, I understand.
But it's the best team's going to win. And yeah, it's not a 3-0 comeback like last year where the Oilers actually blew the doors off the Panthers in game 4 and then won close games in game 5 and game 6 and then lost at the end. This is totally back and forth. This is a heavyweight matchup.
Yeah.
With two boxers just throwing haymakers everywhere. And the haymaker that lands and knocks the guy out, the other guy out, that's going to be the winner. James in the comment section saying Panthers have blown 2 multi-goal leads now. That's right. They blew a 2-goal lead in game 1 and a 3-goal game in game 4. Is it complacency or incompetence? I think it's complacency. I think part of it is complacency and part of it is the Oilers just
I would argue that it's the Oilers more than anything else in this.
It's true. It's true. He also says he still wants Florida to win because then Evander Kane won't win.
I understand
he's a Sharks fan. He's a Sharks fan.
I understand the Evander Kane hate, but still want my Oil to win that one.
That's right.
Yeah. All right, we're gonna move on to our next topic before we get out of here. In lieu of hot food takes this week, there are rumors. There's speculation.
Oh man!
After last year's banishment from the Nathan's hot dog competition, the legend, the GOAT of competitive eating, Joey Chestnut, may be returning to the Nathan's hot dog eating contest on July 4th at Coney Island. I don't have as many thoughts about this, but my co-host does.
Yes, I do. Yes,
ahead,
I do.
Dustin. Cook.
Unironically, watching the Nathan's hot dog eating contest and the lemonade drinking contest
Oh,
before
no.
it is one of my
Shout out Badlands Chugs.
yes, is one of my favorite 4th of July traditions. People always, I get invited places for 4th of July. Thank you to everybody that invites me. I'm very thankful every year. But the one year my sister was like, hey, you want to come over for a barbecue? I said, yeah, not until after 12 o'clock. She said, why after 12 o'clock? I said, because I got to watch the Nathan's hot dog eating contest first. And she's like, you're that into that? I said, yes, I am. Because first of all, watch the 30 for 30 that they've done on it. The amount of training, you wouldn't think it. You're like, oh, it's just guys and gals eating. It's more than that. They train for that. It's a regimen. They treat their bodies a certain way to prepare for it. They slowly stretch their stomachs over time. They get going. Joey Chestnut is doing he's got like a ball that he can chew on to strengthen his jaw. It's crazy. But these
that's why he's called Jaws.
yeah, Joey Jaws Chestnut. Yeah.
Yep.
He I will admit, I'm going to watch the contest every year, regardless of who's in it. I thought Matt Stoney would do a better job over time. I don't think he was in last year's contest, but I am somewhat awed by the amount that anybody can eat. But not having Joey Chestnut in the contest, it lacked something last year, because whether you want to laugh at me or not, he's one of the greatest to do what he does. And it would be like not having Jordan on the Bulls in the 90s or Kobe on the Lakers, or, you want to see someone who's great at something do it. I've always had that outlook. I'll watch somebody paint if they're really good at it. I'll watch them paint a wall and I'll be mystified. I'll be like, how are they so fast and precise at this? And so maybe it's how my brain is wired, but I love the hot dog eating contest. It's a weird piece of Americana for me. The one thing that I will say, please don't ever bring the Chew View back. That was one of the worst years. That was really tough to watch. But I'm going to close this. Part of the reason I love this so much, gentlemen, I've asked this question of every employee that's ever worked at my day job, and now I ask it to you. If you had to enter a all-you-can-eat food contest to win, I'm not saying what's your favorite thing. What do you think you could win? My pick is regular Cheerios. I can out-eat anybody when it comes to regular Cheerios. No one's stopping me. Kevin, I'll go to you next. I'll start with you since you're the guest.
Cheerios, that's about the worst possible selection to me.
Oh, I love them. Because
I could never put enough sugar on Cheerios to satisfy me.
That's why I get honey nut. That's why I get the honey nut Cheerios.
Honey nut's good. Great.
It's already sweetened.
So if I was going to select something, how about I could eat some wings.
Oh,
I could get started with that, and make sure they're boneless, but and lemon pepper, and then I would be good to go with that. And I could, consume just, as many as I could. So that would be my selection. If I was to choose, what would I try to eat the most of? Would be boneless lemon pepper wing.
All right, that's a smart selection because you don't have to contend with the bone. You can get a lot. You can get a lot more.
That's right, because the bone you might get stuck in your throat or something like that. Yeah, and that would turn into an emergency scenario. So we don't want that.
Safety first, Kevin. I like it. Ryan, what about you, sir, as the captain of this ship?
I'm gonna go with popcorn.
Oh man,
okay.
I could mess up some popcorn. You've seen me eat, Ryan.
Oh, I've seen you eat popcorn.
And apologies for that. but I think popcorn is a great pick. But what flavor? Are you going just OG or are you going?
No, I'm going OG.
Okay.
OG. I may have to.
Got to put some butter on that, okay? Got to.
Nah, that's okay. OG is fine. But here's the thing: I would have a trick in mind because I've watched Man vs. Food. I've watched these other contests, and you get flavor fatigue over time when you start to eat an excessive amount of something. So I would counter my popcorn with some with some chocolate. Just kind of get the savory and get the sweet element and to kind of reset my palate. I can continue eating.
I could put some ranch seasoning on that. I could get behind that.
That's fine. That's your popcorn, but not my popcorn. Although I will say the cheeseburger flavored hot dog at the OBX popcorn that hits hard. That big OBX cheeseburger seasoning hits so hard.
Yeah, that OBX popcorn shop is amazing. And Ryan, another shirt idea for our store. # not my popcorn.
All right, we're going to with that being said, we're going to move on quickly to our last topic of the episode. This is episode 43 of 2025. It's also episode 280 of the canon episodes of No Credentials Required. We're talking about our favorite athlete to wear the number 43. We talked about it before we went into in the green room before we went on, and Dustin and I were having some discussion about who we're going to pick, and we had the same person in mind, but Dustin forfeited it back to me, which is very kind of you. Didn't have to, but that's okay. I'll take it. So I'm gonna have Mr. Wilson start with your favorite athlete to wear the number 43.
Okay, so this is a real easy one for us here because our favorite athlete to wear number 43 is currently playing for the Indiana Pacers.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and that would be Pascal Siakam. And I talked about him last week that he went to my wife's alma mater, New Mexico State. He was an all-WAC selection for them. He's the first round. Yeah, and he was a first-round draft pick by the Toronto Raptors, and he won the 2019 Most Improved Player. He's been an All-Star. He's an NBA champion, and he's the current Eastern Conference Finals champion or MVP. So this guy has had an amazing career, and I was seeing he's a Cameroonian.
Yep.
Now I would never have a chance to say the word Cameroonian except for right now. So that fact alone, plus you add in everything else I just mentioned, makes it so I have to select him as my favorite player to wear the number 43.
There's a lot of players NBA players who have represented Cameroon or from Cameroon. Joel Embiid is one of those athletes, although he plays for the United States in the Olympics because he's a naturalized citizen. So he came from Cameroon. Christian Koloko from the Los Angeles Lakers. Luke Mbamute from the Milwaukee Bucks. He's from Cameroon. So yeah, we got some great athletes going to have Cameroon. Cameroonian. All right. Dustin, your favorite number 43.
Oh, man, this pains me to do this, but to me, it just adds to my integrity. Thank you. I am picking someone who I dislike for my 43. All right. Troy Polamalu. Okay. Yes, he played for a team that absolutely ripped my heart out, and he's a Steelers. Let people still wear Polamalu jerseys. He played for a very long time, relatively, in the National Football League. And I would admit he was the start of the quote unquote modern safety to me. He kind of changed the position. He and Ed Reed, I'd put them up there. And he's got a Super Bowl. As much as it pains me to say, he's got a Super Bowl. He's a great player. I think a lot of people would know him for his hair commercials with Head and Shoulders. He was famous for his hair, but let me tell you, he was a lot more than hair on the field. He was a wrecker. He was a game wrecker, and he was part of those great Steeler teams, and he was kind of their identity on defense and their leader on defense for a while, or at least one of the leaders. And I do feel strongly that he is he changed his position a little bit and the way he played it. He was a very fast safety for the time. And I think that carried over into the way the other teams around the NFL started to structure their defense. They wanted that quote unquote Troy Polamalu type player. You've heard people break it down because he could cover a lot of space on the field. As much as it pains me to say it, he's I use the term loosely, but he's my favorite athlete to wear number 43. He's not really my favorite, but you got to take game, respect game. You got to tip your hat to Troy Polamalu in the black and gold.
So my favorite athlete, and this is the one that Dustin and I were discussing before in the green room beforehand, because we said, all right, who's your favorite number 43? I said, is it a baseball player? Yes. Did he play for the Yankees? No. Did he play for the Mets? Yes. And the Blue Jays? Yes. We're both going to pick R.A. Dickey, but Dustin gave it to me, so I picked R.A. Dickey. And he wore number 43 with the Mets and the Blue Jays. And when he was drafted, he was kind of a meddling pitcher because he wasn't drafted by the Mets. He was actually drafted by the Tigers in 1993. Then they went back into the draft in 1996 and was drafted by the Texas Rangers in the first round. And he wasn't very well known as a pitcher until he reached the Mets, and he kind of changed his style. And he was throwing kind of a knuckle curve. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, he became unhittable. In 2000, and let me see when he played with the Mets. From 2010 to 2012, when he played with the Mets, he became unhittable. He won a Cy Young, was an All-Star in 2012 with the Mets. Was also 14th for league MVP that year, but he won the Cy Young in 2012 with a 20-6 record, 2.73 ERA. That's what. But at that time, he was almost 40 years old.
Yeah,
right.
I didn't realize how old R.A. Dickey was until I looked at Baseball Reference and I saw he was born in 1974. He's my same age as my oldest brother Jim. But he didn't have his real breakouts. He didn't really break out until he went to the New York Mets, and that's when he became the pitcher we know him as, and it's why he wore number 43. But it wasn't just his story on the field of having an amazing comeback, and we're actually going to watch the rookie for no ticket required in the next couple of weeks, which involves another pitcher who was a little bit older who had himself a career in the major leagues. But it was a story off the field and how he survived an abusive childhood that was inspirational because this is a guy who could have folded and he couldn't figure out why he was still playing the major leagues, and was kind of went around different teams, played with Texas, played with the Mariners, then he played with the Twins, and before he then wound up going to the Mets, and that's when his game started to come alive. It wasn't really well known until the Mets. Then he wrote his autobiography and revealed all these things he went through in his childhood, which would make anyone else crumble. But all right, but he came through it. He got through his issues and became a really decent pitcher. And it was not his numbers that make him my favorite number 43, but it's just the fact that his backstory of how he came through from an abusive childhood and became a premier pitcher late in his career. So that's why my favorite to wear number 43.
Yeah, it's a great pick. And I mean, the knuckleball, having any success with a pitch that is unpredictable as the knuckleball can be.
Yep.
Sometimes when you throw it, you don't have it, you're going to get shelled. Tim Wakefield could talk about it, which Wakefield is the one Boston Red Sox who I never minded. I always liked Tim Wakefield, but R.A. Dickey kind of carried that torch on. There was Phil Niekro. There's R.A. Dickey. There was Tim Wakefield. And I want to watch that knuckleball documentary again because I've always been fascinated with the pitch. And it was just amazing to see him harness it, especially that one season where he won the Cy Young and went 20-6.
Yeah, he was 38 when he won the Cy Young, which was pretty cool. Pretty cool.
Yeah.
So it shows you on old,
Yeah.
If you're persistent and you just keep pushing, keep working, you'll make it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's him. James says his favorite number 43 is Darren Sproles, aka Mighty Mouse, one of the most elusive running backs and returners to ever play the game. He also says also going shout out to ex-Yankee Jeff Nelson. He also says R.A. Dickey naming his bats after fictional swords was fantastic.
I thought about Jeff Nelson. He didn't make the cut though for me.
Yeah,
I had to give the edge to Polamalu.
Yeah, he was close for me too. I thought about him. All right, before we get out of here, Kevin, where can the people find you?
Well, I'm pretty busy out here right now, so not just on this show, but we had the Belly Fantasy Live baseball show, comes out usually on Sunday nights. Then we have the Belly Up Fantasy Live football show, comes out on Tuesday nights. I just dropped an article yesterday and introducing everybody to a Kansas City rookie wide receiver by the last name of Royals. Should he be on your fantasy team? Yes, he should. Go check out that article. And sometimes over this next few days, I have just named my Week 11 fantasy baseball MVPs, and that will be out there. You can find all this on the Belly Up website and YouTube. You can find me on X at Kevin62 WILSEA, or Twitter. I'm sorry, Ryan. We're still calling it Twitter. But
That's right.
That's where you can find me. And so I'm out there. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask.
All right. And here, thank you, Kevin, again for joining us on Saturdays, as always. And we're going to get out of here too, but just to remind you before we get out of here that you can find us on social media, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Just search for No Credentials Required. On the Belly Up, and also check out our other podcasts and written articles like Kevin's on bellyupsports.com. On the podcast side, subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Spreaker, Amazon Music, iHeart, TuneIn, Pandora, and also our YouTube channel following the show. And don't forget to hit that notification bell on Twitter and on YouTube. That way you know when shows go live or we have show announcements or we put up videos. You can get that notification. You can get that notification in your notifications box. We're going to get out of here and enjoy our weekend. Oh, that's not it. We're going to get out of here and enjoy our weekend. But thank you again for tuning into No Credentials Required, where you don't need a press pass to talk sports. We're presented by Belly Up Sports. We'll be back on Tuesday reviewing Blue Chips with Nick Nolte, Shaquille O'Neal, Penny Hardaway, amongst others. So tune in 6:30 p.m. Eastern. We're going to talk about that movie and our No Ticket Required movie series. It's our fourth. If you haven't heard our other shows regarding that, which was Draft Day, Seabiscuit and Mystery Alaska, you can find that in the archives. But in the meantime, we're going to go enjoy our weekend, our respective weekend. So we'll talk to you on Tuesday. Until then, have a great weekend. Be safe. Enjoy all the sports you're going to watch, and we'll talk to you on Tuesday.
All right.
I'm going to go eat 6 bowls of cereal after the show. Good morning, everybody.
I'm going to get 20 bowls of popcorn.
Don't forget the sugar, Dustin.
I'm going to get 20 bowls of popcorn.
All right. Okay.